Hey guys, what's up? What's up? I see we all got our shirts on.
We do.
Let's go.
GP, yours is different though.
It's just a t-shirt. I don't have buttons.
You know,
He's got the it's the podcast shirt though.
you got
Wait, are we live?
Yeah, we live. What's
Oh, okay.
Sit up, Keenan. Sit up.
Yeah.
Here we go, everybody. Here we go. We're on. We're on. Well, we're in the house, everybody. We're in the house. Marlena, look up. Look up. How you doing, everyone? What a beautiful day today. I don't know what it looked like in Virginia, Philly. I'm in Pennsylvania. I don't know. Guys, how was it around your way?
Perfect. It was beautiful. Yeah,
It's beautiful. It's hot.
Very beautiful.
It was very nice.
The person.
It got to be 80 degrees in the middle of the day, but freezing this morning.
Yeah,
True.
this morning. Novella, you know I'm upset because I love where you at. Over in Annapolis, over by the water.
Yeah, and they have the boat show going on for the next couple weeks. So you can't really see like downtown by the docks because they have all these boats and booths and stuff set up, but it's a good vibe. I drove down there yesterday. I had Pastor Trisha Payne all the way from Lake Region came.
She preached at your church?
Yes, to preach yesterday.
Nice.
My pastoral anniversary there. And so I drove her downtown and it was just a good vibe. Everyone was out and you could just feel that good camaraderie down.
I can't afford Trisha Payne. I can't afford her. So I don't know what advice y'all got with her to get her to leave from over there over here. She has a book out, doesn't she? She has a book.
Yeah, she has a book.
Two
Two books.
Yeah, one of the books
One of
her health journey, you know, and triumphs. Talk about triumph through her health journey. Yeah, Trisha Payne is just an awesome person. Very humble, very loving, very well.
Had a very nice lady.
She's something. And then we have a couple of ladies join the when I say the crew, because I can't say it's not Allegheny East, but our area. Our girl is in Seabrook.
Pastor Katrina is here.
Oh,
That's
I
it.
didn't know her.
Y'all, Marlena, wait till you.
I have to meet her. Yeah.
Katrina, if you are listening, remember me from Praise Fellowship. We go way back.
Oh,
You know, I just want to say, Katrina, you and your family, great people. But whenever y'all want to come to Allegheny East, come on and join us.
he said it with a big old smile on. He said, "Come on and join."
She's a great person.
Children's
Great family.
pastor to the
Children's, yes,
world. To the world. Woo.
children's. I've worked with her in children's ministry, and she's way over the top. Way over the top. in children's ministry.
Wow.
People got a good. Hey, GP, how little lady doing? I haven't seen her in your lap in a while.
She's doing well. She's downstairs having a great time.
She got her
She's
own
too
shit
big for
now.
us now. She's done with us.
Yeah, she used to be on, chilling with us. Now,
You gotta get Libby a shirt then.
say that again, Novella.
Libby a shirt.
Get her a shirt. GP.
Yeah, we
Put it
have-
on and let us see. Everybody, I wanted to say hi to Mary Wright. Mary Wright is out, and of course, Doc Williams is with us. Michelle, good evening to you. Good evening. Good evening. Hello and blessings to you, upsetters. I guess we could wave. How you doing? And how you doing? And all the way from Florida. I know this person from Florida. Good. That's right. Metro Florida.
Pray everybody's all right down there.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God, and we pray the best for everyone else. Yeah.
Yep. What's on your mind? What has gone on this week that tickles your fancy? Look at everybody. Marlena went like this.
So much.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, please vote. Just please go vote. Just go vote. I don't care who. Well, I do care, but it's up to you who you vote for. But just please register if you haven't.
That's right.
Please vote.
It's true. And we're still praying. The wars are actually still happening while while life is just going on. I'm just looking at what's going on with Israel and Hamas, and still Russia. Everybody's doing their thing. But more than that, I didn't know that not Helena, but help me, y'all.
Milton,
Nadine.
Oh, Nadine's coming.
I don't know. So I asked about it, and someone said no, that was a hoax, if you will. But I don't know. We have to check to fact check the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything today. I did watch some news, but I didn't hear that.
But Milton did a number.
Yeah.
There's some places that we just haven't seen, but and they're not putting on the air, or we seeing later on. You see pictures online, man. And then the 6-7 tornadoes that followed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fort Myers got whooped.
Yep.
Yeah. Torn up. So sad.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, it did. GP, I saw your the news clip with you and your friend. Tell us a little bit about it real quick. What
Long story short, I have a childhood friend who I disagree with politically, and a news station in Tampa did a story on us, and it was pretty cool to be featured on that.
Yeah, I saw you. I saw
so
you.
We can Google it. We can YouTube it. Find it.
I
can see the link.
Okay. Yeah.
Put it in the chat so everybody else can see it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna try to do that without turning us off on the air, because
no, that's why I said in the chat. Yeah.
Don't take the stream.
Just leave it be, Pat. Leave it be. Don't worry.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I am sure that our producer is coming back next week, so that I don't press the button over here and be like,
well, Pat, you're a good substitute teacher, buddy. You're a good substitute.
What just happened here? Man, this is crazy. But no, we good. We're doing what we got to do, and we just continue to pray from. And the other news that I was hearing, Keenan, you heard about this, that they were saying that that they made the weather. Somebody they set the weather to. Oh, okay. So
we know that was a lie. Yeah. We know that was a lie.
Like some people are weather generating.
So we become God. People have become gods.
Listen,
I'm surprised somebody to say Diddy did it.
There's that. Well, that's in the news.
Yeah.
You asked us what's in the news this week, and
was it 2020 or 2020 or 60 Minutes or something? I saw it. Oh my!
I was at Oakwood.
You about to say use that? What?
No, not there. I use, and I don't use that oil. I'm just going to let you know that right now. No, sir. And it's funny because when we were coming through, and I was mentioning this to the student body, that we were talking about that a long time ago. And these are some of the reasons why I think it's important that when we talk to our young people, you give them the principle of the fact. You know what I mean? When you talk about music and you talk about the industry and all that type of stuff, we spend too much time talking about the people, when I think that we need to just have them stick simply on with the principle of the matter. Because listen, Uptown Records, all that stuff, we were talking about that from way back with Biggie and the whole nine. So I just think that we have to be careful of what's in the world and what we support. Think about that. You buy the records, look what you support. You know what I mean? You got to think of it from another angle of where we at. So I don't know, guys. We'll see how that all rolls out. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Guys, keep talking because I made another mistake.
So I see Nick Taliaferro commenting.
I don't want to talk to him. I do not want to talk to him.
Are you canceling Taliaferro?
He
must be in trouble.
Yeah, he's got. I don't know. His wife said he can't come in. I don't know. Yes, so everybody, I see it just now. Thanks, GP. We are not on Facebook. We are not on Facebook. We are only on YouTube. So what I'm asking for everybody to do now, who we're not on Facebook, we're only on YouTube, is please share this somehow on your YouTube, on your Facebook.
I thought you were going to say you're going to shut the stream down and start again.
Or is it a way to do it up top, like on your right hand? Like to the right on the top, is there a way to add it?
guys, y'all can say that in the private chat instead of making me look like click here to connect your I don't know the passwords. That's Allegheny East passwords. I don't know Allegheny East passwords. So
let's keep rolling.
So we're gonna keep on rolling. We're gonna keep on rolling.
It's remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's
they're gonna look back at this show maybe a year or two and say,
Pat, you had one thing to do, Pat.
Yeah, man, I know, man.
One thing.
I know, man. Just one thing.
We're just teasing, Pat. We're just teasing. You're doing
no. Anthony Daniels says, "Where's
Sasha?" Oh boy.
She is far away.
Too far away. All right, everybody. This is it, man. I'll try to share it on the back end while we discuss this, because I think this is really serious. And I'm grateful to know that we have Novella, who is an astute when it comes to grief. I know that she has all types of certs when it comes to it, and also working on her other degrees, but I know that she deals with grief well. We have Keenan, who's with us, who is a licensed professional for mental health. And so the rest of us that is here, we just want to tie into whatever we're going to talk about. We're talking about grief today. We're talking about grief. Those of you who are in the chat that's following us through, please, if you have any questions or if there's anything that you'd like to add, we'll push you up through here. But God, I ask you to be with us as Novella takes us to another level, as talking to us about grief. Novella, take it away. It's on you.
Grief is a word that many people associate with human emotions and the aftermath, mainly of the loss of a person. However, it is also understood that grief is not only associated with the loss of a human being, but grief is an emotional response to any loss, any transition, any adjustment. Have you ever seen a bride standing at the altar? They are willingly at the altar to marry the man they love. However, they are crying profusely, suggesting that those tears are not simply tears of joy, but those tears are tears of grief. For said bride, she is happy and willing to take on a new life with her husband, but she now faces an adjustment that causes her to feel joy mixed with anxiety. Many have understood grief also through the stages of grief as made popular by psychiatrist Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in her 1969 book on death and dying. The 5 stages include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Critics of the model have warned against using it too literally. Nevertheless, in various forms of grief, we see some or all of the stages surface. Healthy grieving is a key to processing the situations, the losses, adjustments, and finding a viable path forward to reconciling what was and what shall be. Healthy grieving is not overnight. It is not passive. It is not easy. But healthy grieving might include conversations, tears, time, activities, allowance, journaling, walking down certain memory lanes, acceptance of one's emotions, and much more. Healthy grieving does not have a time limit, does not look the same for all, and does not reflect the same way from moment to moment. Healthy grieving, however, is the responsible way to stay tidy with our emotions, to stay tidy with our processing, and to ensure that we do not bleed upon people who have not cut us. Likewise, that we are not transferring negative energy to loved ones who are kind enough to be present to help us. Have you broke up with someone who was a partner and you find yourself eating excessively? You're grieving. Did you lose a job and you spend a lot of time in bed and you are numb? You are grieving. Did you lose a loved one and now you have this burst of energy to clean your house, to do activities that burn energy, all while acknowledging your pain? You are grieving. Have you lost your hair suddenly or untimely and you feel altered? You feel angry. You feel frustrated. And that, my friend, you are grieving. Might we suggest that the grieving process, whether personal or organizational, should be respected as much as maternity leave? For both events of life have altered your future, and if not taken seriously, can negatively impact your mental and your emotional health and your overall performance.
Wow.
Go ahead, Novella. You know what to say now, just like Tally, who we all are upset at right now. What say ye? We got the brightest minds.
Well, normally, if Tally was here, he would say, these are not things that I have to dissect myself. But here on the UpSet podcast, we have the brightest of minds to dissect these things. What say you?
What say ye? She got it down packed. Let me write that down. I didn't even write it down. You know, Novella.
Don't let them in your head, honey. Don't let them in your head. Don't let Tally be in your head.
And Tally, if you want to jump on, you should. I like that. He even pressed the point when you said that we do not bleed that upon people who have not cut us. Grief is a terrible thing. Can you do me a favor real quick? Can you just name those 5 again for us? Just those 5, and then we go in.
Yes. Made popular by psychiatrist Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Yep, just those 5.
Those 5 include denial,
yep,
anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Man,
denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
Have we ever gone through any one of those? And I wanted to talk. I wanted to say personally first. Everyone, have we at least touched any one of those 5? Any one of us? Chime in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen some other studies, Dr. Novella to be, that added guilt. And I know a lot of people have felt so guilty when, it wasn't their fault. I mean, I had some guilt when my mom passed because I wasn't there, and so yeah, I've gone through several of the stages.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And when Novella, you were talking about losing a job,
yes.
And to be personal with you, it's not just losing it; it's even moving.
The transition,
a transition from it. I've experienced some of those, and to be careful that you don't bleed on. You don't bleed on people that you have not. How did you say that? You have not.
Didn't cut you.
Because sometimes our grief can cause us to be bitter, and I think I took this off your Facebook one time, Novella, where it's good to keep quiet until you heal or get through the healing process, because sometimes you don't know what you're saying or how the feeling is coming out. So I like that. Personally, I've been through it.
Yeah. And grief is not a kind of thing where, oh, I'm feeling better today, so I'm just over it. It's not really an over it. It's kind of a through it type of process. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have just different types of grief, compound grief, where there's just back-to-back stuff that's just whipping you, right? And you just kind of like freeze sometimes, and you might see yourself in a totally different light, where you're like, I've never behaved like this before. I've never, excessively eaten, or I've never gone to the gym twice in a day for 5 days a week, or, what I'm saying? Like the grieving process doesn't mean you will react negatively, like overeating. It could be just something you do to cope. And it doesn't mean it's negative. Like I was cleaning. Listen, in January, one of my dear loved ones and mentors died, right? Suddenly in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Listen, the way I would clean, I would clean the table today and go right back tomorrow. Clean. One of my friends was moving. I done packed her whole house and moved. I said, you need to move? I just packed the house. Everyone was like, how are you doing? I gotta get it. You know, it was what I did, you know.
Yeah.
So it just manifests in a variety of different ways. But as long as we can be honest about it, I wish that the acceptance part came first, right? If acceptance was like, and I don't know that these 5 stages are in that order, but it kind of feels like we don't always jump to acceptance. Sometimes we are in disbelief for a while about whatever it is we're going through. A breakup. I can't believe she. I can't believe he. I can't believe. And we spend 5 months in saying, I can't believe. But if we could somehow accept first and say, I believe that guy was or she was then we would get to another place of processing or progress a little further if we could accept. So it's very complex.
Keenan, go ahead. You was chiming in. You're on mute.
Your mic.
Yeah, is this mic?
Can you hear me? Testing.
We go.
Yeah,
you could. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, when it comes to grief, I always tell people is no, don't put a timetable on grief, you know. Because you never necessarily get over it. You just learn how to live with it. You know, because some people say, I should be over this right now. Why am I still crying? Why am I still crying? And like, that's okay. Cry as long as you want to cry.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no timetable on that. So I want to throw that out there. But I also wanted to say, Novella, only because I'm getting older, let me slip my mind, something that you said in your presentation. You said that grief leave, something along those lines, should be the same almost as maternity leave.
Taken as seriously as maternity leave.
Seriously as, and I agree. I think that's powerful right there. But the unfortunate thing is that we live in a capitalistic society where it's all about the bottom line.
Yep.
And so when a company starts losing money, you know, they could care less about your grief. You know, unfortunately. And we just need to be more compassionate, and that's our overall society, you know. But I just think that's powerful. How do you say you only have? Somebody told me who worked for UPS, they said that they gave them 3 days.
It's about 3 days. That's kind of like the norm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because grief is complex and there's no timeline, right? But we know that we can maneuver through, right? It needs time to maneuver through. So if you're giving someone 2-3 days of bereavement leave after a loss of a child or parent or whatever the case may be, or spouse, right? Long-term partner, whatever, or even close friend, and they're worried about their bottom line, you ask yourself, are you really worried about your bottom line? Because if you put me back to my desk, my seat, before I have had time to sit with my situation, I am not producing the way you desire because my brain is not in this chair. My brain is not at the desk. That's a dangerous thing. Yep. But then maybe that's why companies have, I forgot the word, but they have these counselors, you know, the free ones that you can call, you see what I'm saying? So maybe in their mind, well, if we provide those ongoing things, you can be back in your seat in 3 days.
You know, I'm just imagining, guys, the people grieving from these storms and losing everything. I mean, can you lose? And it's, even if you have a business, everything is gone. I mean, there's nothing, you know, and that has to cause major grief
and trauma. You know, you imagine the news comes on, it'll be raining today, and in their mind, or in their chest, it starts to get tight because they're thinking rain equals the storm I just was in.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? You know, it's very complex what that sound of a storm, of those hurricane, if you will, tornadoes, the sound of it is very piercing.
And I think about the people. I think about people who grieve, because everybody grieves differently, right? Some people, they'll grieve, do their grieving process. They got to go to work. You know, they just have to keep going, because they're not willing to deal with the situation. Instead of the healthy thing would be to slow down, feel it, you know, being it, feel it, you know, to help, you know, to move on. But some people are not ready for that. So there's work and work and work and work and work and keep going until something else happens. Then they say, okay, I haven't had time to grieve yet. You know, so that's something just to throw that out there as well.
Can I ask a
Well,
question?
Mr. Keenan, does that? I'm sorry. Go ahead, GP.
I'm going to ask a question about the denial. So let's say if someone's experiencing grief, but they want to deny the reality of what has happened or what they lost or the person they lost, and they deny it for so long that they never fully grieve. How dangerous is that when you are in a constant state of denial and you refuse to accept your new reality? Can it shift you to a new dimension of, I don't want to say crazy, but like how dangerous can denial be in this process if it's long-term or permanent?
Keenan, before you jump with that one, GP, let me tell you this. I have a friend of mine whose mother just passed away in they had the funeral last Wednesday, and I talked to her and I said, hey, how are you doing today? I just read something where we shouldn't say that either, but I found that saying how are you doing today instead of how you doing puts them in a time frame where they're at. And this is what she said to me. She said, I'm in denial. And because she said I'm in denial, that's the way she's handling her denial. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she's really not in denial. She is handling it by saying that she's in denial, right? There's so many different ways of going about it. But if you deny it, or if you're in denial, it's going to come around. And go ahead, Keenan, finish that for me.
No, it's eventually is gonna. If you don't, if you don't process it,
yep.
You know, you're gonna experience it. It's gonna come out. So you have to deal with it and process it. Eventually, it'll come back around, and you're gonna go right through it.
But and with that, Keenan, doesn't come out in various ways, right? It could be anger. You know, you could
erratic behavior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excessive erratic behavior, anger.
Yeah, I just you know, my mother-in-law, she's not listening, so I could say this about my mother-in-law. So you know, I talked about this a few weeks ago. You know, my brother-in-law, he committed suicide during the pandemic. And of course, it's devastating for a parent to lose a child. You know, it's devastating for all of us as a family. And so my mother-in-law, her way of coping with this is she's retired. And so she just travels the world. That is her, because she stays home too long. So she has to deal with it. So she just has to be on the go all the time. Because she's just not really, she's not willing, or she's not ready to really face it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. So
yeah. There was a question GPU said. I'm looking in the chat. Help me out here. I believe, is this the question? Is grieving always bad? Is there ever a possibility, ever a possible aspect to grieving? And can there be, all right, here we go, Snoopy and the gang, good grief, literally.
I mean, it's good to let go of certain things. Let's be honest, right? Because we know that grieving isn't just linked to death and dying, right? And so some of us need to be grieving some of the relationships that we've been holding on to.
Sure.
And it's just beneficial for our lives if we cut that tie, right? And so making a conscious choice to be healthy, if you cut that tie, you will grieve what you have experienced, right? So for 6 years, 7, 8 years, you've been in a relationship with, it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a relationship with a good friend, whatever the case may be. But the toxicity of it, the negativity of it, the codependency of it, the whatever of it, you know, that thing has been messing with your head and keeping you up. So you cut it, but you're accustomed to receiving a text. You're accustomed to the phone call. You're accustomed to spending time every Monday afternoon, and you feel an emptiness at that time, or those times where the person will interact with you. Now, you cut it willingly. It's just that physically, you have to get used to a new timetable, a new time clock. And that's not negative, that's positive, because you needed to cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be a friend. I have a best friend, or I haven't talked to him in ages. And every time I go down to Florida, or I try to call him, he doesn't call me back, or you don't. And so you have to kind of say to yourself, you grieve a bit. The thing, and help me with this. The thing is that we look at grief as one gigantic blob, like this big thing. It's just this big darkness. But I think that we grieve certain things. We go through certain things where it doesn't grieve us to the point where it's taken us down, but you miss it. You could miss a friendship. You could miss a person. It doesn't have to be a boyfriend, girlfriend, or something, something romantic. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes you miss the friends or the company that you've been around. And I think in our green room, we were talking about that one time when we were saying we talked about churches, right? Pastors that move from church to church, where you miss. There's some people you miss from church scene.
I'm in that process right now, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you leave already?
I'm about to.
Okay.
It's bittersweet,
mm-hmm.
So, but I'm definitely, just mourning, relationships and all that. So,
sure.
We're human beings. So that's, I know it's part of it, being a pastor in the Adventist church, but yeah, it's
I cried when my first maybe year and a half when I moved to my district all alone. Yeah, it was sad because it was during COVID too, so you couldn't visit.
Mine isn't as like, okay, this might sound weird, but it's just a fact of grief.
Okay.
I moved within the same state, just a different county, right? So about 45 minutes away, different county. The fact that I could not buy a beef patty,
mercy,
in the city I live in, or I couldn't walk into the market and hear certain sounds and people.
Hold on, Novella, certain sounds or certain music?
Whatever you interpret certain sounds to be. I would feel like, where am I? You know what I mean? And it was like, I was happy to be here because it's a new experience. Oh my gosh, this is so cool to be in this new city. And then I was like, but where are my comforts? The comforts of home, where are they? You see what I'm saying? And so it's a good thing I'm here, but I be missing a couple things.
No, Pastor, check the bottom. Say that again, Pastor Novella. I grieve my former marriage in the happiest way.
I'm with you, Cerise. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Is that
Yeah, my daughter wanted to throw one of her friends, a divorce party.
They have.
I was like, what?
They have them.
Yeah.
They have them. They have divorce parties, man. And I think when the year comes around again, they celebrate again. I mean, good grief. Sorry, Tally. I didn't mean to say good grief.
Even with it, grief, like he asked the question, is there any good to grief? Yeah. Hey, beef patty, I found a spot 30 minutes away. If I want me a patty, it's all good. It's an adjustment. So grief, it'll take you through an adjustment. You did something good, but you feel little adjustment vibes. It's no problem. It's all good. But you just got to allow yourself to feel it, to experience it, to journey through it, and then to adjust, towards what's next and what's possible.
So wait, Novella. So with that being said, are you ever the same person after grief?
Good question.
What do y'all think?
I think you're always affected, and I don't think we're ever the same mindset again. Right. I don't think so. I mean,
for me, yeah.
But here's what I like to add to that, though. if handled properly, therapists, pastors, if handled properly, you can step up. You're gonna still carry it with you, right? You're gonna still go through grief. I remember my uncle, whose brother died 30, 40 years ago, had grieved him one day. Something triggered him, and he grieved what was going through. But as I think Nick Talley has said in here, he said, remember Isaiah's grieving elevation. In the year that the king died, he also saw the Lord. So I have to say, personally, that through certain grief that has occurred in my life, that I have drawn closer to God, or you have been a better person because of it, know how to handle other grief when it comes around, because they're all, if we push it to the side, we're gonna have to deal with it later. That's the bottom line. And I think you said that, Keenan. If we don't process it correctly, then we're gonna end up dealing with it later. But I can say this, that if it's handled properly, you can go through the fire and come out pure gold, even if you're still carrying that. Marley and I could remember when your mom passed. Up to this very day, I could remember the shrieks. I mean, I don't know what it was. I think we were on the phone together. I think when you were walking either in or just heard or whatever. It's something I will never forget for the rest of my life. Now, if I don't forget that for the rest, you know who else too? Pottinger.
Shauna K, you said.
Shauna K, you knew where my office was on the other side. We heard Shauna screaming in her side of the office, and she was on the one side of the office, and we could hear her. Now, remember, these are the things I could remember for the rest of my life. What is Marlena going through for the rest of her life?
That's why I said it changed me, as Pastor Novella said, and Dr. Keenan was my therapist, but I found solace when he says, you don't get over it, but you learn to live with it. And so you just develop that coping strategy. And remember, my mom died after we had just done that grief show with Dr. Defoe. Remember when we did that after the our president and his wife died, right?
I remember that.
They passed, right? So my mom died like a week after their funeral. So that was really rough. And Dr. Defoe was telling us to find something to honor them with, right? And so that helped me and my family too, because we, found some things to honor our mom. And so, that shifting of your thoughts into something positive from the experience helps a lot.
Last night, so this year was just deep for me as it pertains to grief. And I kind of look back at it and I'm just like, when they have those old songs and poems like On the Wings of a Dove? Them things come into real play when you suffering with pain. Yeah. And like, on the wings of a dove, the Lord has carried me. And yesterday was my late mentee. She died at age 23, just a month ago. Her birthday was yesterday where she'd make 24, but she's not here. So her mama wanted us to gather and go to dinner and stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, we're going to dinner. Went to dinner. I got there and I felt like, okay, this is okay. I was like, it feels a little strange, but it's okay. Everything was all right until she unboxed the cake. The room, you started to feel the shift.
Man.
The one guy is staring off into space. The brother's getting teary. They want him to cut the cake. He got to put the knife down, put his head down. I'm putting my hand on the boy's shoulder. Everybody, let's stop a second and just pray right quick. Our prayer, then we wait another 10 minutes and who gonna manage the cake? And then the mother cut the cake, the initial slice, and then she passed it to me and I cut about 2 or 3 for others. And even as I was cutting it, I was like, I'm not supposed to cut it. Serena's supposed to cut it. Where's she at? In the grave. And I just sat there for a second. I was like, but you know what? I said, okay. And what helped me is when I I start to like kind of put gratitude in the mix. I was like, okay, she's not here, but you know what? She was here last year. She had a bomb birthday. You know what? Listen, she was a good girl. She had a great life. And that kind of just helps me manage the sadness, balance it out a little bit, if you will, because I acknowledge I'm sad. I acknowledge we're all sad. But Lord, in my prayer, I had said to them, I said, you know what? God, thank you that this family has memories of having been together for all these years.
Sure.
So that even now they're sad. We are sad, but we are remembering someone warmly. Some families cry out of guilt. They don't out of warm memory.
Yep.
And saying that in my prayer helped me be able to talk about that warm memory and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mix. Go ahead, Mix.
Just two things.
Go.
Well, I should say two things, but I've experienced two sides of grief.
Man, that mic is blaring, boy. Go ahead, man.
You need to ask for an upgrade from
Come on,
the
baby.
first one was right after I decided to accept the call into ministry in high school. The only model of ministry that I looked up to was my uncle at the time, passed away.
Yeah.
And at that time, I mean, 17 years old, I think I'm invincible, you know, strong as an ox. You can't tell me nothing. At that time they had a satellite funeral because this funeral's in the Caribbean. I remember sitting there in the room and the satellite was messing up. This is 2007, so technology isn't what it is today. And they start singing a hymn, and I remember not being able to control this reaction that came up out of me. And I don't mean to be too graphic, but it's almost like the involuntary response of vomiting. And it's just poor, and I'm sobbing. I am sobbing at that moment. I remember feeling that, and I remember even while at Oakwood and post Oakwood, as I'm navigating this ministry field, which can be very tricky because there's a lot of verbiage that's used that doesn't align with the lexicon or dictionary definition. So you got to decipher what people are saying and not saying when you're having different conversations with different people.
Sure.
And I remember having to navigate that space and grieving the fact that I don't have my uncle. I wish he was here to at least help direct my path. And it's still from time to time, but I still think about him. But then I meet people who were impacted by his ministry. Pastor of Small Islands, Dominica, and he pastored in St. Lucia. And I'm still meeting people that were impacted by his ministry. It brings more to my heart. But the most recent one, I don't know if it was grief of not knowing what happened in the breakdown of a friendship.
Right.
Especially during the COVID times, and someone you talk to almost a daily basis, or you see almost on a daily basis, and you don't speak to anymore, and you're not sure of the reason why. This is the person that you shared some of the, and what I realized that God was building up within me was a greater trust and faith in him, because my faith was more in the wisdom that God placed around me than in the person who gave them their wisdom, right? And so I had to learn how to be resilient. I had to learn how to seek out God for my own. I had to learn how to find those answers. And so, grief is a process, but I do believe there is not. I can't say for everyone because there's different levels to it. But for me, so far in my life, grief has also brought its own gifts as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that somebody write it down to say it next week in a sermon, because grief has brought its own gifts. That ain't no joke.
It's powerful.
No, that ain't no joke right there. I remember doing a funeral in like 2021, and it was a domestic violence funeral.
Wow.
And I didn't know the young lady, but I got to know the family because I had buried their matriarch 4 months before. And now 4 months later, they're calling me, and I'm like, why are they calling me? Like, what happened? And they're telling me, and I'm just like, will you say? Because this is a nice family. You know what I'm saying? Now, domestic violence ain't for the nice or the unnice. You know what I'm saying? It's for nobody, and it can
That's
happen
right.
anywhere. You understand?
That's right.
When you look at a nice family, you ask yourself, how? You know what I'm saying? Well, because it's not for nice or unnice, it's for, you know, it could happen. We just have to, you know, see the signs. Anyway, and so they call me and I'm reading the news article, I'm going through it, I'm freaking out. But because all she did was date a man and break up with the man, right? The man couldn't handle that, put a bullet in her head, and then he put a bullet in his. So you have a murder-suicide.
Right.
And I'm sitting in this moment and saying to all I kept saying to myself was, all she did was what I and other single people do.
Would have done, yeah.
She just dated. I remember one night, I woke up in the night, it was like 2 a.m. and I just slumped over. I sat up in the bed and I squeezed in my stomach, slumping over. My stomach burned. It was hurting with grief, hurt me. At the funeral, I was the officiant, so I'm moderating the program. I had my finger on the program. Dr. Kinlock was sitting next to me, Dr. Stoddard, etc., Dr. Defoe. I had my finger on the program, and I would just go down the line, do whatever. It's not until I was looking at something for the program, like on the video, I said, I don't remember seeing that guy get up. I don't remember this happening. And I realized I had blacked out several times during the funeral and nobody knew. I sat there and I would just kind of black out and then come back. But because my finger was in place, I didn't lose my and then and come back. And that's when I realized, look what grief can do. Not because if I knew the person specifically, my heart hurt for the people I had come to love, her family, her mom, her aunts, right? But that association of all she did was do what the rest of us single people do, which is date. And that led to a death. That caused me grief.
And here's the crazy thing. What that man felt, whether it's isolation, whether it's rejection. Remember now, we're looking at him as a criminal. We're looking at him as as an evil person, when you just named in the beginning of your presentation, there are things that can happen in your life that cause grief. The same feeling that he had for someone who has left him or broke off of dating is the same way people feel when someone passes, or when they lose their job, or leaving their job, or moving, Megs, you moving from one place to another. They said that some of the biggest stressors in life is moving from one place to the other. We don't recognize that. I'm sorry to keep harping on pastors again, but think about this. When a pastor moves and he moves his family from one place to the other, they said it's one of the biggest stressors in life. And I know we're talking about grief here, but imagine the feeling or what's going on in their life. What are they actually grieving?
Especially the children, grieving their friends,
grieving their surroundings, grieving, etc., etc. And yet, we just looked at this story that you just told, Novella, and immediately I said, man, my daughter, if she dated a Negro like that and whatever, and not saying to myself, here is a person that's going through isolation. You know the words, Keenan, that we talk about, the isolation of those who are feeling rejection or whichever. The key to all of this is this. Doc Novella, you know this piece, and this is what I want to share to those who are listening. We also have a problem with this with men, and maybe even the culture that we're within, or even the Christian culture that we're in. We got to learn to ask for help. We have to ask for help. I think now at funerals, we should be able at funerals to say, hey, brother, sister, our church would not mind linking up with a counseling firm or etc., that we would love to offer you 3 to 6 phases of grief counseling. Something that we should be able to give to them as a gift, because some people, like you said, they're going back to work after 3 days.
Pat. Pat, man. That's I agree with you. Not only that, but when people are grieving, most people on average, if you ask them something like, hey, can we bring food over? Can we do this? Or whatever it is. And some people's minds are like, well, I don't want to be a burden to you. So no, you don't have to do anything. But I have learned, just do it.
Just do it.
Say, we're bringing this over. We're gonna have a food train for you. We're gonna do this. We're gonna just do it for them.
Even if they throw it out. Even if they're gonna throw it out.
Yep, exactly.
And those of us who are in comfort care, whether you're the pastor, the elder, or the secretary at the church, or whomever you may be, just a person who's involved with caring for others, the stress that one can carry can eat you away if you don't deal with it properly. People who are in comfort care can get beat up, and others may not understand. Even when you've said, hey, this is a lot for me, their expectation of you might be, but you better do what I need, or, you know, this is my expectation. Put your foot down. Because if you don't put your foot down and look out for you, you will not be able to function and keep going. When I do certain funerals, I call my prayer partner and say, I would like you to be there, please. At the last funeral I did, yes, at the last funeral, because you know, sometimes we do so many, I'm like, was that the last one? At the last one I did, I said, I'd like you to be there. She was front and center, sat right behind me. When it was time for me to prepare to go up, she leaned over to me. I have a picture. Somebody took a picture of it. Was close to my ear to pray for me. I'm up there preaching and everything, you know, you get in preacher mode, you're focused and you're fine. But to have a familiar face, your person,
yes, amen,
makes a difference. Don't be afraid to open up your mouth. For those of us who are in comfort care, open up your mouth and say to someone, please be there. Or when the funeral is done, I just want to come to your house and sit down and just talk or eat whatever you eat and watch TV or sit on the deck, whatever. But don't be afraid to say, I need, please.
Yeah.
Listen,
That's
family,
good. That's good stuff.
In 2003, I was at DuPont Park. I got hooked up to a funeral home, Marshall's Funeral Home in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Peter Campbell, anyone who was at DuPont Park used to say, hey, get with the, and I recommend that, by the way, pastors, to know all your funeral homes in the area and get linked up with them. Not only that they know you, but they also, I started to speak their eulogies for those who were non-churched. Get a little pretty penny. I think I started off $75, $100 every time I did it. And I remember counting 191 funerals.
Wow.
In about a year and a half or so. Believe me, it took a toll on me, because here I am trying to preach the same thing over and over. This is that and over, and try to say, oh, I don't know this person, so I'm good. Nah, that doesn't work. It actually weighs you down to the point where I went to see a therapist, and the therapist was like, you don't need to do that no more. Just stop doing that. You are finding yourself trying to make a little change on the side, but yet you're bringing down the emotional part of your life. And way too much. There's, whether it's a death, and I'm telling you, you could name them all. There's, when we're talking about grief, I know we're talking about death all the time, but there's grief that you go through. Mix kind of mentioned a relationship. I mean, and a relationship, again, not a sexual relationship, not a romantic relationship. You could lose a family relationship. Yeah. There are people who are divorcing their parents. And I said, you hear what I said? Divorcing their parents. They're going grieving type thing. And you cannot handle this thing by yourself.
Can I say something? Because something crossed my mind. Over the past few months, we have had several Seventh-day Adventist pastors active in ministry pass away.
Yep.
And although I am not connected with each of those pastors who has passed away, I grieve that reality that there are pastors who are actively serving in ministry. Yeah. They preach a sermon one Sabbath, and the next Sabbath, they're no longer there. We're planning for their funeral. And I wonder, is there a term or a level of grief? Has that been coined, or what is that called when you don't know somebody personally, but you're affected by it? What's that called?
That's not compassion, right? That's not compassion.
I mean, I don't know if there's a term for it, but I mean, you got disenfranchised grief, you got anticipatory grief, you got complicated grief. It might be complicated grief, you know.
Yeah, because I could tell you, I remember when Lisa Reed, Lisa Reed's husband passed in Virginia. I hit rock bottom because I did not know that pastors in the line of duty can die.
Wow.
He was my first one. So I get it, GP. You're right. When those 4 pastors passed in the past year, and they were young.
Yeah.
They were young pastors. I said, wait a minute. Now, here's where we got to be careful, everybody. And I want to share this with you. Something that I help with people with is overthinking. Am I next? You understand? You start asking those questions, and then now you're putting yourself in a grieving situation that we ought not be there. Actually, that turns on anxiety. That starts to turn on anxiety, right? That's the anxiety side of it. Kenan, you said a couple of them. I don't know what it is, but GP, you're right. When I think about what has happened to the people down in Florida, I don't know them. But man, I got to stop watching the news so I can get out of that grieving state.
But I want to say something too, just speaking about grief, because you mentioned pastors, and Novella, she mentioned pastors as well, and having those boundaries.
Donna said situational grief. Go ahead, though. Go ahead.
You know, so for pastors out there, and Dr. David Defoe, he helped me out with this. There was a family, I just didn't know what to do. I was rushing to their house, and I just didn't know what to say. He said something that I never forget. He said, at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember anything that you said.
That's true. They're
going to remember that you were there.
Yep. Presence.
You know? That you were there. And also, I just want to say, just speaking of pastors as well, just with boundaries, because Novella, she was, you know, hitting to boundaries. You know, keep those boundaries. You got to pastors, you got to have those boundaries, because I know we're speaking about grief, but you will kill yourself. You will die in a pulpit. And at your funeral, even before your funeral, your church members will be at your funeral and say, who you think our next pastor is going to be?
That's right.
They start looking around who attended. Maybe it's him or her. Yeah.
Yep, for real.
I've actually seen the opposite. I've seen churches still grieve pastors from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Can't move on, and they hold the new pastor to that image of the old. And then, you know, the stories changed. You know, he was just a man at one point in time. Now he's grown wings. He has superpowers. You know, as the years go on, the legends, you know, get longer. So I've seen both sides of that. At that,
there's some pastors you don't want to follow. All right.
Yeah.
Let's just put, you don't want to follow no Fordhams. Don't follow him anywhere. You don't want to follow Kenan. I'm afraid who's gonna follow him at his spot. No, there are some people.
He's the first pastor. But Pat, what you were speaking of, Dr. Armando Reed, he was my pastor. I was his head elder when he passed. And I was with Pastor Lisa at the hospital when he died. And so it was traumatic. And Miggs, that's how my church was. If they grieved, that if they could, they probably put a statue in the church with his face on it. He was a good pastor. He was a very good pastor, but they grieved, and no one has ever been able to take his place.
And I know that we're putting the landing tables up, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm still in another phase of grieving over Fordham. I'm still processing it. It's not as bad as it was, but still processing. He was my father in ministry. And Bill Hall and we didn't have a good relationship when we started ministry together. I didn't have a good relationship with him. But he sat down and talked to me about why, and we became friends. And now that you become friends with someone who has so much knowledge, now he's gone. So even in ministry, we have to be careful that we learn how to grieve so that it doesn't stop us from moving on. But there is healthy grieving. There is healthy grieving. That's healthy
Mm.
grieving. I don't know what to say, Novella. I when we were in the green room, we said we could talk about this forever
Oh, yeah.
because so many different phases that comes on with when it comes to grief. But any last words, everybody, that you would like to give to someone who's grieving? Because I even know that there are persons. I'm getting text messages on
Yeah.
who are grieving relationships,
Oh, yes.
happy in their divorce. I got
Yeah.
no-
Shout out to
Yeah.
Loss of your pet, the loss of your pets, right?
touch
Yeah, yeah. I would say when it comes to the grief, again, keep saying their name. Don't stop saying your loved one, friend. Don't
Mm.
stop saying their name. And they have all these different things called the open chair therapy, but go see somebody. I'm always going to end there, right? Go
Yeah, no,
see
you're right.
counseling.
Yeah.
If you feel it's too much, you've been grieving, like, oh, why am I still? Go seek professional help.
Yeah.
But there is hope, and that hope is Jesus Christ is coming back for that great, great reunion. So,
Amen. Amen to that.
Kenan, why weren't you last? Okay,
oh my bad. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I told you I'm getting older, so I gotta say it before I lose it.
Come on, Megs, take us
So
out,
we're
man.
gonna give you a brand new rocking chair for your graduation. That's what
Oh, just real quick, Megs, before you go on there, Doc Williams was saying great program. I think a part 2 would be appropriate. We'll talk to the producer when we come back about that. Megs, hit us as we go all around and stop at Novella.
Not to belabor what Keenan said, I think he was about to sing the Midnight Cry as it ended. One thing I've learned is, man, grieving really keeps us tethered to the reality that we're still human. No matter how high, no matter how successful we may be, we all have to cope with loss at some point in time.
Sure.
But I think it is important while you're going through the grieving process to know that this is just a season in life.
Yeah.
Things get better. It doesn't mean that that person will be replaced. That hole will never be filled, right?
Mhm.
It's just that you've learned how to maneuver around it, and you reflect more on the good moments with that person. And for those who now, I've personally never experienced this, but I'm recently hearing about this, people passing away without sorting out their relationships.
Yeah.
And so for those moments, you'd have to seek someone professionally to help you to, unpack some of those things. But lean in on your community, establish a community if you don't have one. I just preached about the fact that God has created the church. This is not a human construction. So leverage what God has already provided.
Did you preach about that yesterday?
I ain't gonna tell you.
No, because that's the reason why you didn't come to my church, because you had to preach about that yesterday. That's fine. I caught you out there, Migs. I'm grieving, by the way. I'm grieving.
Yeah. God has established this thing, and it's flawed. Don't get twisted. We talk about this all the time. It has its flaws, but it was established by God. The foundation is, in fact, Jesus Christ. And so we're here. We're here. Your community should be there. Your prayer warriors, like Novella's already stated, you got to have some people in your corner. So this is a season. This is a moment, but definitely lean in on your community.
Good stuff, Migs. Community. Marlena, come on, preach.
Well, I'm not the best at this. I used to do a lot of funerals and thought I had it all together, but when my mom passed, I lost all of that. All the things that we were taught, we would teach other people to do, as Dr. Tyler said, say their name. I couldn't do any of that, And so one thing I learned is, as you said, Pat, just be there for people. And don't try to find the right words to say, because you can't. And even sometimes a prayer, I don't know what people prayed for when they were praying for me. I don't know what they were. My mind was all over the place. So I think just be there for people and love them through the process. Keep checking on them, beyond the funeral. Just let them know that you're there. And people, will always remember. I remember every kind word, every kind gesture. And I told my church, I loved them extremely. I had just gotten there, and those people showered me with love. My people, I want to say, they showered me with love. And I'm always telling them, wherever I go, I will always remember them. They were so kind to me. And so when Jesus says, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted, he uses you to comfort one another. And so just be there to comfort people. That's what I want.
Before we go into GP real quick, Donna says grieving makes one an introvert. Fear of having a close connection with people for fear of losing them through death. Be careful of that. I think we can chat about that again also. Isolation is dangerous, though. Be careful.
Yes,
isolation is dangerous. GP, come on.
Yeah, I'd just like to say grief is a process and a journey. And I want to encourage anybody grieving to be patient with the process. Wow. And trust that God will continue to bring you through. And as you're grieving, it's possible for you to be growing in God's grace.
Come on, man.
Amen.
GP.
Y'all check the alliteration?
Yeah. I know I was trying to bring this to an end, but I'm going to say this, and you all know me. If you don't know me, GP, I don't like you today. 2 reasons: the deep voice, and my man is worthy like that. I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Look at him. He can't even smile to it. Look at him. I love it, man. I love it. Grow. Novella, take us out.
Well, today we have looked at grief from different levels, whether it's death and dying, loss of relationships, physical adjustments like moving or changing churches, even if you're in the same state. Kind of just looking at what grieving can be, how it can feel, how it can impact your mind, your behavior, your emotions. None of it should be downplayed. None of it should be placed to the side, but all of it should be embraced with maturity and compassion one to another. We know that grief might not be as popular a topic as, say, maternity leave in the workplace, but we should be wise then to tap into sick leave, and if you have to use vacation leave or even your FMLA, to make sure that the time you need to invest into your grief process, your healing for your mind, your emotions, and your life takes place, and even sets a mark or a standard for those that you are around to say that it is appropriate to grieve and to grieve forward, to become reconciled with the situations of your life that have caused you to grieve. And once you are reconciled with those things, then you can move forward step by step towards a brighter future.
Well, here you have it, everybody. I know that this subject, thanks, Novella, Doc, everybody, this is awesome. We could go on for another whole hour based on it. Like you said, we didn't even touch pets. How to handle our kids with pets, and how we love our own dogs. And even my dog's back right foot was cut off. And there's just grief as we go along. But the one thing
we're grieving too, Pat, that black cat that used to run across your screen. We don't see her anymore.
Yeah. Actually, my wife was she held on. My wife came home from work. She picked her up and died in her arms.
What?
Yep. Wow. And this is a lady, my wife, who does not like animals, just period. But she fell in love with this cat. And every time she sees a black cat, which we see all over, they're just walking, she just says, oh, look. So they're little triggers. But like you said, GP, what I love what you said is that we have to take this and find a way to grow through it. That's hard. But one thing that Keenan Meg said, Jesus Christ, and I didn't say that out of turn or tone. I literally mean, when you get to a place, get a counselor and get Jesus Christ, because he'll listen to you and soothe you through it. Everybody, we want to thank you for hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks, Novella. Thanks, Novella, for leading us out.
Thanks, Novella.
Yep.
Happy Pastors Month, Pastoral Month. Appreciation for all my colleagues here.
Yep. And likewise, and for both of you here who's finishing up their doctorates, I see y'all, Novella. I see you, Marlena. Keep
It's
finishing.
3, Keenan too.
Yeah. I'm not talking about Keenan. I'm talking about and Keenan. That's right, Keenan. You're running your thing. Just guys, stay on it. Stay on it. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Right.
Handing in that paper. So pray that they don't send it back. That's all. Just say pray they don't send it back.
That's going to start us out, and we'll finish in the spring.
Hey, there we go. There we go. Love you guys. This is good. It also have helped me. I'm sure we help somebody else. We'll see everybody at the back end, because if it's
Sunday,
then it's the podcast. Peace, everybody. Peace.
Blessed week, everyone.
Yep.